Did you figure it out? Did you figure out where I am? How are you today? I'm in downtown Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I figured the tower might give it away. Right now, I'm at the headquarters of the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. And my vlog today is going to be interesting. I want to talk about a Canadian television icon for children's programming, Mr. Dressup. But his real name, of course, was Ernie Coombs. Now, if you don't know who he is, I'll tell you a little bit about him and you're going to learn on this journey we're going to take today. Now, Ernie and Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, came up to Canada together to do children's programming. Now, Mr. Rogers went back to the US and Ernie stayed in Canada and became Mr. Dressup, who entertained children all across the country from 1967 all the way to 1996. On today's journey, I want to show you the Treehouse that was on Mr. Dressup. I want to take you to his original studio where he entertained so many children. I want to take you to the Daycare, the one-room schoolhouse that remarkably is still standing in Toronto. When everything gets torn down because of condos and development, the one-room schoolhouse is actually still there. I want to show you where Lynn, his wife, ran the daycare. I want to go right outside of Toronto and show you his home where he lived for so many years. So you have to come with me today.
Please fasten and adjust your seatbelt.
Now for me, it's a personal one because I met Mr. Dressup when I was a kid. I remember, and I'll never forget him telling me that he had a son named Chris because he knew that was my name. And when I told him my sister's name was Kathy, he said he has a daughter named Kathy. So it was so cool to meet him and have that relation right away when he told me that what his children's names were. So today, I'm going to go inside the CBC. We're going to start there. We're going to go check out what they have of Mr. Dressup. This is where, of course, we start. Now, he was actually born in Maine. And as I'd mentioned, him and Fred Rogers moved to Canada together. He actually created the puppet, Lady Elaine Fairchild, for Mr. Rogers, because he was the assistant puppeteer. His original show, Butternut Square, ran for 3 years before Ernie created Mr. Dressup. So come with me today. You can't click off. This is going to be a really good one, and it's a fun one for me, personal for me, and I want to take you to those sites. Let's go.
How cool is that? There's the original tree from Mr. Dressup, Ernie Coombs. And I wouldn't even imagine being able to see in the back of the tree, but we can actually take a look into the back of the tree. How many times we saw Casey and Finnegan right here. We're right in the CBC building, and there's the Rosebud Motel sign. But there's the tree from Mr. Dressup. Let's look around back. Show you with my light. Look inside the back window. This is where puppeteer Judith Lawrence used to operate Casey and Finnegan. And you can see inside the tree, there's the blue door. That's inside Mr. Dressup's tree. Alrighty guys, I'm literally reliving my childhood, thinking of my grandmother, where I would go to her house and watch Mr. Dressup. How cool is that? Incredible. Mr. Dressup, 1967 to 1996. Ernie Coombs spent his entire career entertaining children with a unique joy and enthusiasm that made a lasting impression upon millions of Canadians. Together with Judith Lawrence's Casey and Finnegan and an ever-expanding puppet cast, Mr. Dressup delighted viewers with his stories, simple crafts, songs, drawings, and daily dips into the Tickle Trunk for dressing up adventures. Alrighty guys, now I've shown you the tree. I want to show you something really cool. Mr. Dressup. Check that out. There is, you can see Mr. Dressup with Casey and Finnegan on the wall. Portraits of Finnegan. Portraits of Mr. Dressup. And if you look over, look right there. There's the Tickle Trunk. There's the Tickle Trunk. It's Mr. Dressup. Now, they used to have a museum in here where you could see artifacts, the Tickle Trunk, and artifacts from the Friendly Giant and other shows. And that closed in approximately 2017. But as you can see, although we can't go in, we can see Mr. Dressup right there. And we can see the Tickle Trunk right there. Didn't I tell you I would show you guys some cool things? Okay, let's move on.
Alrighty guys, do you recognize where I am? Now I can't give you a full Mr. Dressup tour without showing you his longtime studio right here behind me at this corner. Now, my understanding that the building is going to be torn down at some point and they're going to build condos, but right behind me is the longtime studio. He taped in studio number 4. So this was the entrance. Now, when you walk in, if you went to the left, the Mr. Dressup studio was right along the Yonge Street side. And the Treehouse was right in front of the window. We'll go over and I'll take a look. Now it ended up turning into a Staples and then that shut down. And then like I said, it's supposed to turn into condos. Based on the diagrams that I've seen from people who've worked there, the Treehouse sat right here. Now at the back of the building was the set storage, and right along the back wall over here in the middle were the dressing rooms. But in 1992, Mr. Dressup moved to the CBC, the large CBC Centre here in Toronto, the Broadcasting Centre. But for so many years, this was it. Now, my understanding based on research is that Mr. Dressup would come in twice a week to shoot a week's worth of shows. In addition to Mr. Dressup, Front Page Challenge, Canada After Dark, Juliet and Friends were all shot here. Now, there was conflicting research whether The Friendly Giant was shot here, but my understanding is that was shot at Studio 2 on Jarvis Street. Mr. Dressup locations are not just readily published, so I have to really look to what former staffers say, people who work for the CBC, and I have to kind of find my information from former stagehands and CBC staffers. I'm so glad I got to show you this. A former CBC studio, and where Mr. Dressup, Ernie Coombs, taped for so many years, and the Treehouse iconically sat right there on the other side of those windows. Alrighty guys, let's go to another site. So we're in Scarborough, and I want to show you another site of Mr. Dressup that played an important part in his life and the life of his wife, Lynn. It's a one-room schoolhouse that's right here in front of me. Check this out. See, this was the Butternut Daycare. Now, this was built in 1872, and it really is typical of the one-room schoolhouses you would see back in the day. Now, it says right on it, Scarborough Historic Site, but Lynn bought this and opened it in 1971, and she did extensive renovations to the building. Now, Mr. Dressup would even welcome the children. There was the one-room schoolhouse right at the front, and then you can see where the brick doesn't match there. That's where Ernie Coombs did the addition. All the children that would have come here and been taken care of by Mr. Dressup's wife. Now, they did move the Butternut School Daycare Center over to Milner Avenue. And I'll show you a quick ad from that, but that is now just a parking lot. There was the one-room schoolhouse that served as the daycare for Mr. and Mrs. Dressup. This was Lynn's daycare. Okay, we have to go to another site now, so don't click off, come with me. Let's go to another site. Can you tell where I am? Well, I'm not going to tell you exactly where I am, but I'm just outside Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And I've always wondered, where did Mr. Dressup, Ernie Coombs, live? Now, if you watch my channel or subscribe, you know I've done hundreds of celebrity homes and former celebrity homes all over the country. But today I'm going to visit the home of Mr. Dressup, Ernie Coombs. People who live in this area and trick-or-treated at the house all have fond memories of when Mr. Dressup lived there. And today I get to visit that house. Now, it's really important to say that another family lives there. The Coombs sold it. So I want to respect their privacy and I won't show the address, but I do want to visit the home because I want to see where Mr. Dressup lived for so many years. And now, this wasn't all built up when Mr. Dressup would have bought the house. And like I had mentioned, I heard all kinds of stories about people trick-or-treating here, and I couldn't even imagine trick-or-treating at Mr. Dressup's house. Can you imagine trick-or-treating at Mr. Dressup's house? So let's go over, check out the house. Now, one thing I didn't mention much of in this video, and it's done on purpose, is the tragedy with his wife, Lynn. Now, she was in an accident in May of 1992, and I purposely didn't visit that site. It's on Yonge Street because I don't want this video to focus on any negativity. I want this to be about the joy that Mr. Dressup brought to children across Canada and I'm sure across North America. So let's go over, check out the house, and see what it looks like. That is the home of Mr. Dressup. Now, in the backyard, he had built his son and daughter a treehouse. But that's the house right there. Now you can see it's set a little bit further back from the road, but they had quite a bit of land. There's a train running right behind there. Boy, it'd be great to see the backyard and to see if anything's left. I had read something that when Mr. Dressup, that when the family sold the house after he passed, that there was still artwork from him inside the house.
I don't know how true that is, but that's the house right there. Pretty cool to see that. I've always wondered where Mr. Dressup lived. Alrighty guys, I thought that was so cool to see where he lived for so many years. Raised his 2 children, Chris and Kathy, in that house. Tragedy struck when he lived in that house with Lynn. And it was so cool to visit it and just see where he would spend his time and walk into the valley. Now, I'm really glad you guys came along with me today because I really got to relive my childhood, and it really brought back so many memories of my grandmother, who I would spend time with at her place watching Mr. Dressup. So hit that like button below and subscribe. Let's go on more adventures together. I always like to say, life is like a book and I want to read it with you. So thank you for joining me from just outside Toronto, Ontario, Canada on this sunny morning. Peace. Peace.